Hey there, Darren. I hear you. We'll wait just a little bit. A few more people filter in since I flipped videos on them. Will do, Steve. All right, we're getting a few more people filtering in. I'll give it just like another minute, and I'm trying to actually share this someplace else, and then I'll get right back to it. Excuse me. Never can get that right. Hey, Gunner. Hey, it looks like Jeremy's here too. All right. All right, I don't see Steve Cordes in here. I want to get him in here before I go because this is actually one of his questions. Oh, Chad Shanks is on. Jason, you're correct. I haven't really talked about that. I'll add that in there about leg markings. In fact, I'll go ahead and start with that one while I let a few more people get checked in. Two things. Steve chimed in again, and man, I tell you what, Steve Slauson has helped me understand things from an official perspective and a rules perspective that, you know, I've raced bikes forever, but I don't know. The officials just kind of do their thing, and hey, I go up and see where I place, and I'm all happy about it, and you know, I'm good. I don't really think about how the heck that all takes place and the process that it goes through. And I mean, so when I took over the leadership of TdD Dirt, there was so much that I had no clue about, and I think I bugged Steve relentlessly. And hell, he's moved to Houston, and I'm still bugging him all the time for information. So, and he's on here giving us, you know, tips. So, man, this guy has just been so much help, and we miss him. But glad you're enjoying your move to Houston. Anyway, Steve said, note on Sunday call-ups. We don't do call-ups. However, when we do have an Omnium event, where we have which means we have at least a 3-event weekend where we have 2 events on Saturday, and then we have our Sunday cross country. We will do some call-ups for the cross country race, and the reason for that is because if everybody's done the Omnium, we want to make sure that everybody that is in a possible podium position for the overall Omnium has a chance to compete with each other. So anyway, so we will do something like that with the Omnium. Again, even with that, still, most of you guys know each other, and you know who's needs to be up there, and you allow them to get up there even if it's not done, if the call up is messed up or people aren't aware of it happening. Jason and Gilkey asked me again. He said, don't forget to mention about getting your legs marked. Yeah, I mean, true. I mean, sometimes we forget about this. Luckily here in Oklahoma, especially after 3 or 4 races, we're very familiar with each other. Most of us know each other. However, nonetheless, we have leg markings for a reason, and that is simply because when you're riding behind someone or someone is behind you, they can look down at your leg and they know what category you're in. They know what class you're in. So while we try to do our best to separate certain groups, especially the Cat 3s, we like to have the Cat 3s alone. However, even within the Cat 3s, there are a bunch of age categories and there's a lot of overlap in there. So you get the slow end of one pack and you get the fast guys at the other pack. Will bridge that gap and there will be mixture. You have that with the Cat 2 races as well. And then also even, you know, some of the Cat 1s. There's not as many of those guys, so there's not too much overlap. But anyway, the whole point with the leg markings is so that you know whether or not you're racing against someone in front of you, or if they're behind you, they know whether or not they're racing against you. It changes how you race, I suppose. Changes how you deal with, if you know. And it's also nice too, which goes to a subject that I want to talk about here in a minute, which we touched on yesterday and we'll touch on again, and that is race etiquette, passing. If you're looking at someone in front of you with a leg marking that they're not in your class, let them know. Say, hey, I need a round. I'm not racing you. I'm a single speeder. You know, just need a round when I get a chance. So, you know, by seeing that leg marking, then you know that. So, good call. Okay, let's move on to the 2 main topics. First one is revisited from yesterday, and again, it was brought up. I think a lot of people dismissed that. The video was kind of long. Unfortunately, this one kind of got long. That's why I just broke it up into 2, so that we can post them separately, and you don't have to watch them both. You know, you don't have to watch 40 minutes to get to this point. You can now just pull this one up, and we're at 8 minutes because I've been BSing for 8 minutes. But revisit race etiquette. Talk about passing, feed zones, hand-ups. Kind of already discussed that, so I think I've got that okay. Yeah, so I think we're okay with most of that. But just a real quick visit on etiquette. If you're slowing up riders behind you, you need to let them pass. Simple as that. Don't just sit there and, you know, if you know that there's 2 or 3 riders behind you, don't be that guy. Let them around. I mean, they're riding your wheel for a reason. Or you might say, hey, you need a round. And if they're just huffing and puffing and can't catch their breath and they're like, no, you're fine, well, then it's okay. That means they're just following your wheel and that's all right. But communicate, talk, ask. If they say something like, hey, I need a round, make it happen. If you're behind someone and you need a round, don't be a jerk. There's a lot of people that are. You know, don't come screaming up on them, yelling, trail, 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 rider back, leader, leader. Don't do that. I know people do. I know it's meant, I don't know, maybe it's has good intentions. I don't know. But honestly, that's rude. Be nice. Roll up on them. Hey, it's Corey. How you doing? Hey, I need a pass when you get a chance. You know, simple as that. Say hi. Tell them who you are. That's what I do. Identify myself. Say, and I don't push them. I don't rush them. I try not to jump up on them and, you know, scare them, because some people get startled because they don't realize someone has snuck up on them. And I don't force them to get over. I let them kind of make the decision, and then I'll look up the trail, and sometimes I'll see a section. I'm like, hey, you know, don't do anything now. This is a hard section. You know, wait up here, and there's a good chance, and I'll go left. So just communicate. Be smart. Trail etiquette's easy, but some people just make it hard. We've already talked about the other part of that I had a note on, and that was feed zones and hand-ups. Feed zones, hand-ups are allowed in mountain biking. Most people just do it themselves, but you can't have someone in there giving you stuff. But there is a feed zone and it will be marked and it will be established. That should be part of your pre-race protocol. You should go find out, know where that's at. Simple as that. If you don't know, ask somebody. Ask an official. Ask me. Ask a race promoter. Ask someone working there. Ask. That's it. Check it out. You got to know those things. And it's up to you to do that. It's not our responsibility to inform you, although a lot of times we do make those announcements, especially in, just pre-race things, pre-race meetings, stuff like that. But it is up to you to do that. Trish, reiterate that you do not have to be on a team to race. That is correct. Back in the day, teams were actually quite minimal. Teams don't really have any bearing whatsoever on whether or not you race or choose to race or anything like that. On top of that, you can be riding for a team. So for example, I ride for Bike Lab. We also have a team challenge team in the Tour de Dirt. That's fairly normal. Tommy and the guys, Team Phoenix they also have a team that's in the Team Challenge series. Off Camber, Wheeler Dealer, they have their team. They have a team, and they also have a team in the series. However, if I'm just Joe Blow and I've got 7 or 8 of my buddies and we just ride together, we're not an official team. We're just a bunch of dudes that ride and have fun, and we want to enter a team. We can create a team challenge roster. You can pay the Dirt $50 for that chance to win the cup, which is a pretty sweet cup that we've had for years and years and years. And knock on wood, it's sitting right here in our shop right now. If we finally won that thing for the very first time ever last year. So I don't know. I think that explains all that. So teams, not necessary. Teams, great. But you can race as an individual. It's all good. One thing I would like to talk about the teams, it's a trend that I've noticed over the last 15 to 20 years. The sources of information that you guys have now, especially as new riders, these teams provide so much of that, and it's awesome. It allows you to learn what you're learning now. It allows you to learn racing styles, nutrition, training, all of this stuff that, man, when I first started, none of this stuff was available. I didn't know how to race. I didn't know training. I didn't know I was supposed to train. I thought I was just supposed to ride my mountain bike. I didn't know I was supposed to eat during a Cat 2 race. I didn't know there was race nutrition. There was no team. I didn't have anybody to tell me that. Now you guys have all of this right at your fingertips from a lot of these teams. So I'm not saying it's necessary, but if you've got a bunch of guys that ride for a team, or you got some people that you like, or you're interested, there's numerous teams here in our state. Numerous. So look around. Find one that fits you, fits your bill. In fact, I'm wearing, one right here, little plug for Team Warm-Up Cycling Team. Yes, I said that correctly. With the badger right here. But yeah, there's tons of teams. Find one. You don't have to join, but man, it's a great source. Great source. Not only do you make great friends, great camaraderie, traveling, hang out, but the knowledge that you gain from all the people that have been doing this for a long time is substantial. I've seen so many of our new riders come onto our team and just do great things within 1, 2, 3 years. And that was, for me, that was unheard of back 18, 19 years ago, just because that knowledge wasn't there. That source wasn't there. And most of us, like me, dude, I'll tell everybody everything that I ever do, every training thing I do, every trick I do. There's no secret. There's no secret training. There's no secret to it. I'll tell my major competitors exactly what I do. It's all about sharing. Johnny Nicely, Team Moonshine. Dude, that stuff that you had this weekend was delicious. I need that recipe. Johnny Nicely is he makes some homemade moonshine. It's good stuff. Darren, you guys are as official as it can be. Okay, I think that's enough of that. Let's finish this up with the last subject. I don't know if it's going to be long, but I don't know. We'll see. It's complicated, and it causes a lot. It stirs up a lot of crap. Upgrades. Brought to you by Steve Cordes, who brought this up, so I should talk about it. Steve, you're right. Should, because I have to deal with it all the time. I have. I've been, I deal with this just, all the time, especially at the beginning of the season, especially towards the end of the season. And I just think a lot of people don't read the full rules. Our rules are out there. They mirror USA Cycling. And I'm going to actually talk just about what those rules are about upgrading. And then we'll talk about some of the little things within that. So first of all, we're just going to talk about where you sign up first time. You can choose to sign up the first time pretty much whatever category you want. I mean, if you want to start as a 1, you can. Probably not advisable unless you've got a background in something else, and you're just really an outstanding rider with other fitness coming into this. But as a new rider, unlikely. You can start as a 2. I did that when I started. I started as a 2. I never did 3s. But most people jump in as a 3 and at least race a race or 2, and then realize this is where I belong, or I need to bump up, and then they can bump up. However, you can advance up to Cat 1 or Cat 2. I mean, basically all the way to Cat 1 level as quickly as you choose. There are some rules below that I'll talk about that help you guide that. But if you choose to move up, you can. Well, and it may be lonely in the Cat 1s in the back, but you could always apply for a downgrade. So the rules with mountain biking are a little bit more lax than all the other disciplines. I don't know. So a lot of people speculate the reason for that, but I guess that's really not here nor there. It just is. In cyclocross and road, it's probably numbers. Honestly, it probably is. It's probably numbers and the style of racing. And there's a lot more categories. We only have three categories, 1, 2, and 3. So there's not a lot of movement. But there's just not, like in road cycling and cross, it's like you have to have X number of races or X number of starts, and you've got to have so many points. I mean, there's times when people wanted to move up, but they couldn't because they hadn't met the minimum criterion. So, which is just the opposite, issue that, that people talk about with us, which I don't agree is an issue, which I'll get into in a minute. But anyway, we're not like that. There are some rules, and here's what those rules are. But again, I'll talk about why those rules are so rarely in effect. So you may advance up to Cat 1 as quickly as you choose, if you want to. However, keep in mind, downgrading, you must have a reason, and you must apply for it online. Simple as that, and it's up to them to decide that. I don't really know how that process works. We have a local person responsible for all of that for us here in our state, and that's Jack McNeil in Tulsa. And then we have a regional guy that I've recently just met. I think he's on our TdD page, so he's probably going to see this at some point. Don LaSoul, he's out of Austin, Texas. And I've only recently just had a few conversations with him, so I know they deal with that if the case comes up. So if you are a C3 and you have top five finishes, you must move up. Now I'm going to put an asterisk beside these 3 things that I'm fixing to say, because what I say after this affects these 3 things. Cat 3, again, I'm going to repeat that. If you have 5 top 5s, mandatory upgrade. If you're a Cat 2 and you have 2 top 5s, You can move up if you choose to. That's an option, but you don't have to. Cat 2, if you have 5 top 5s, mandatory upgrade. Now here's the caveat, and here's the thing which most people miss, and it's usually the most confusing. If you look down below that rule, whether you look in our rules, which is just a mirror image of what's in the USA Cycling rules, there is a chart, and it says that mandatory upgrades are only in effect if you're in a race with this number of riders, with these minimums. And that chart shows you the minimum number of riders. So if you're a junior 13 to 18 and you had less than 10 people and you're a male in your category, then and you finish top 5, that race doesn't count. Okay? Because you did not have the minimum number of racers in that event. This is what affects a lot of our races, and this is why, you know, there was a big conversation on Facebook here a while back about mandatory upgrades and whether or not they are required and not. And it's also one of the reasons why USA Cycling officials don't get into a lot of the local races, and it's because they don't have to, because we don't have enough numbers. If we had huge races in these huge categories and we're having 20, 30 people in each race, they would have to be involved. And as a director, I would have to rely on them to assist me in doing that. But unfortunately, since our numbers rarely meet these minimums for these racers, they do meet them, some do, I mean, honestly, but a lot of our categories don't. Then we have to kind of police that ourselves, because there's no mandatory system for that in effect because of these minimum numbers that we see in a chart. So that chart's critical, and people to understand that that is in play. So that's where we're at with that. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Brian Mackey did downgrade. Steve Sawson said it was a mandatory rule from NORBA when USAC and NORBA merged. That's what I was thinking, that a lot of these rules came from that when it was old NORBA. Most people, a lot of these riders listening today don't even know what that is. So that is National Off-Road Mountain Bikes Association, which is what used to be the governing body for all, you know, United States cycling, and then they changed to USA Cycling. So John Denton, Cat 2 for life. Yeah, no. So I know. I think that that pretty much covers it. So that's the plan. I just want to say, from a personal note, I want to jump back one thing. I have one other thing here. It says when you're calculating these, this does calculate for the entire calendar year. So you've got our 10 race series, but remember, it's not just our series. It is any race that any mountain bike race that you do, cross country mountain bike race. So if you go to Texas and do a cross country mountain bike race, that counts. If you go to Arkansas and do a cross country mountain bike race, that counts. Those are pretty much the only the most common places that Oklahoma riders go. But all those count. I know there were several of us that doubled up, did the Arkansas series and the Oklahoma series last year. So when you're looking at upgrades, all those races count. All those happened within the calendar year. So it's not just Oklahoma races. Chris Patterson, National Off-Road Bicycle Association or Bike Association. I'm not sure if it's bike or bicycle. That is, just said that's what used to govern all the United States cycling. It does what USA Cycling is doing now. It was just a different organization back then. No, Chris, they are not, because those are not cross-country events. Chris Patterson asked, do the Omnium short track and the Omnium time trial count? Those do not, because those are not cross-country events. Just like a 6-hour race does not count. That's a marathon event, and that counts for that, but it does not count for your cross-country. All those disciplines are counted differently. That is correct, John. NORBA is extinct. Has been for a long time. All right. I will just kind of talk about my philosophy and my thoughts on upgrading. First of all, I have a real problem. I try to be fairly political about it. I don't like to jump on anybody, but I hear a lot of people calling people sandbaggers. That bothers me. Bothers me a lot. I don't like that word. And I really don't like the fact that a lot of our riders call one another that. I get sometimes you're joking, but I think sometimes it turns into more than a joke. And just from a personal standpoint, I don't like it. I don't think we have very many people that do that, although I think some are afraid to step up. But I just don't see that we have a problem with that, especially if you look at the overall scheme of things, which unfortunately is just another thing that I have to do. Someone calls me and like, man, there's somebody that's doing this. They should be catting up. I'm like, I don't know. So what do I have to do? I have to research that. So I go back and I look at this rider's year. I look at placements. I look at the numbers of in every race that rider's done. In some cases, I even go and look at their times. There are some people this year that are staying put. There are some people that have already moved up. There's already been transition. We've already got at least 2 or 3 new Cat 1 riders that started last year. We have some that are not. And I think what we're doing is fine. I used to be very staunch about, especially with the move from Cat 2 to Cat 1. I've pushed several riders into Cat 1. Now, do I have a legal right to do that? Am I a USA Cycling official? Am I a local or state rep? No, I'm not. I can't say, hey, you have to upgrade. But I can say, hey, you know, you're doing pretty good. You really probably should consider an upgrade. You know, I can't tell them to do it. And most of the time, it's not it's rarely a mandatory. And I've done that in the past. And it's worked for some. It's not worked for others. So I am not afraid to push people from 3 to 2. That's not as big a step up as people think. And I think we have a lot of 3s that need to step up to the 2 range. Just should be done. But it's a whole different ball of wax when you're moving from 2 to 1. And I've pushed a few people, and in fact, I can name a couple names right now that kind of feel a little guilty about doing. But I pushed them into Cat 1s. I coaxed them into it, and they struggled. In fact, you know, I'm not going to name drop, but there's 2 people that are right at the tip of my tongue right now that I coaxed into doing that. And they're not even in the scene anymore. I'm not even sure they ride bikes anymore. They came back, didn't prepare, which is not my fault. They came back unprepared for the Cat 1 race, and they failed miserably. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience, and they just quit riding. I mean, honestly, those guys could come back and request a downgrade, be a 2, and be fine because they've been out of cycling long enough. However, they're not in cycling now because of that. So because of that, I'm very leery to push people into the 1s unless I really feel they're ready. And they really have to be ready mentally. So someone's knocking on my door. That's the mailman, I guess, knocking on my door. They really have to be prepared mentally. You got to be prepared to sacrifice, to train, to prepare. And so anyway, so that's what it is. So I'm very leery to push people when I don't feel that they're ready to the next level. So, and that's where I'll sit with that. I'm going to see if there's any questions here. Yep, Steve, there's a lot of amateur officials, and you're right. That's why we pay certified officials to handle that and to advise me. Like I said, I am in no way in official capacity to force upgrades or anything like that. It's just that I'm in a good position to help advise riders, and I like to take it upon myself to advise riders because I've been doing this for a long time. I understand what it takes. I know what they're going through. I know the thought process. I'm also good enough to know what's going on around them and me, as well as our series. So I can look at times, I can look at people, I can look at categories, I can look at people that are aging up into their category, and I can pretty much determine, you know, where they're going to be and whether they're ready or not. And so if you guys have questions about that, you're not sure, please talk to me. Just hit me up privately. I can talk you through it. I've already had, 5 or 6 people hit me up over the last, couple months, had discussions with them and helped them make their decision. help guide them to where I think, or I hope that they're going to be successful. I've got a whole stack of trophies too, John. I just wanted to show off our Turkey Mountain guys right here. Give them some props. So, Bob Davis, yes, definitely. I mean, obviously, fitness and technical skills play a part in upgrading. I mean, without doubt. But I mean, that's just part of the gig. You can judge that. I mean, as you get fit, as you get more skills, you're going to succeed. You're going to podium. You're going to do better. Then you're going to be able to be judged or judge yourself whether or not you need to go to the next level. So. Alan White, correct. Mentally is the biggest piece. You've got to be mentally tough. I agree. And I don't necessarily think that you have to be mentally tough to do the race. You've got to be mentally tough, and you've got to be willing to sacrifice. You've got to be dedicated, and you've got to be willing to put the time in to train and prepare. That's the mental part. Racing day is easy. It's the preparation. I get this question all the time. It's like, yeah, when do you take time off? I don't. When do you stop? When do you rest? I don't. And it's hard for people to understand that. Yeah, I take breaks. I take rests. I change disciplines. I go race on the road. I go race cross. I get off a mountain bike a little bit. I never stop. Never stop training. I train every day. Every day. Period. Every day, all year. I'm used to it. My kids are used to it. Family's used to it. It's what I do. It's what it takes. So some people are willing to make that sacrifice and can do that. Others aren't. That's what it takes. Never. Michael Roach, what if you have never raced in any type of road or mountain bike race, but don't still a beginner? Technically, in terms of racing. So Michael Roach asked a question. He's just not sure where he would fit in. Michael, probably better off you just hit me up sometime. We could just talk about your background and stuff like that. I really can't answer that without knowing you, without knowing your skill level. But you could technically enter as a Cat 2 if you chose to, if you felt that you were not a 3. If you're not sure and we don't have a way to evaluate that, you could enter a race as a 3. And if you just dominate that race and realize that that's the wrong place for you, that you need to be a 2, you could upgrade, which is an easy process online. Doesn't take but a day, maybe less than that. And you could carry your points forward to the category that you upgrade to, and you'd be good to go. You really wouldn't lose hardly any points. So we can make that happen, and that could be something that's done within the first 2 races. So, but if you have specific questions, better off just hit me up privately and we can talk about it. I just kind of did that, Steve. Got lucky. That is true. We do allow carrying points up. This doesn't happen very often, but it has happened 2 or 3 times over the last 3 years. In fact, I've got a couple of people that I can think of that have done this right off the top of my head. Aaron McDaniel rides on our Bike Lab team. He did this a couple of years ago. He'd never raced before. Done some motocross, stuff like that, and jumped right in as a 2 and did like 3 races and was just annihilating people, and realized that he wanted to jump up to a 1 because he didn't want to, do that. So we allowed that to happen. We have rules in place for that to cat up during the middle of the season. If you make your cat up before the summer break, then you can carry forward all of your points that you have got, that you have attained throughout that race period. Now, it's going to be base points, not the bonus points. So if you're in a field of 10 and you won, you get base of 60, and that would be 70 points that you get for individual points. So if you were to upgrade in the middle of the season, you would carry forward that 60 points. You would not get the 10 bonus. If you upgrade towards the end of the season, you don't get to carry up any of your, you get to carry up half of your points. So not significant. typically the only time you upgrade towards the end of the season. And honestly, I contact everybody that is in this situation just so that they can have that opportunity. If you are killing it and you have your position wrapped up, and a lot of times that happens, a lot of times within the last 2 to 3 races, we have winners or second place or even third place positions that already have their position wrapped up because of the number of points and things of that nature. I will call them up after I do the math and say, hey, if you want to experience the next level and you're ready to make that for next year, you might as well do it now. So they could cat up at that point and their position will be solidified. So that does happen then as well too. Steve says you may make a race day upgrade by talking with the official on the race day as well too. That is correct. Although we typically try to get that person to go ahead and do that online prior to, just because it's so much easier and less confusing because there's so much going on race day. But you technically can upgrade on the race day. The official can make that happen for you. Yes. Jason, I think that's for another day, bud. I think I'm gonna close down. Hardtail, full squish, spandex, or baggies. Hey, there's something for everybody, buddy. There's no rule. I don't care what it is. If you're riding bikes and you're happy, it's all good. So I don't have any baggies, but I can see myself wearing set. I don't have full squish and I don't have gears. That's just what I do. So I like my single speed and I like my hardtail. All right, I think I'm gonna close down shop. It's been another long one, but hopefully since we split these up, we can get these posted in 2 different segments. So thanks for joining me, and a lot of good comments, and hope I answered everybody's questions. And I don't know, if we have more questions, we'll do it again another time. So I think with the ice melting, I'm actually gonna have to go back to work tomorrow. So probably no live feed. All right, see you guys, enjoyed it. Until next time.